Hello crafty friends, this is a flip-flop journal. You'll see 3 signatures on the front and 2 on the back. I first came across this idea on YouTube on Beth's Journal Boutique channel and 507 Willow House. I will put the links in the description box below. Leslie and Beth make theirs using envelopes as a base, but I wanted to find a simpler way to do it, and I have done that using one piece of scrapbook paper. So the overall appearance of mine is not as long and thin, it is shorter and fatter. But the concept is the same. And I'm totally in love with making these, and it's actually pretty quick. Let me show you. We'll need one piece of double-sided scrapbook paper. I say scrapbook paper because it's a bit of a sturdier cardstock. But before we even get started with that, I'm going to make an envelope for the front. You don't have to put an envelope in the front of the journal. I want to, and you don't obviously have to make one. You can use a ready-made one, but I didn't have one that was the correct size, so I'm going to make one using a small piece of cardstock. I do have this envelope maker, which you don't obviously need to make an envelope. There are lots of templates available, even for free on Pinterest, that you can print out and use to trace over your cardstock to make the envelope. Or you could open an existing envelope and just use that as a template. Whatever works for you. Part of the inside of the envelope will be showing, so I don't want to have it just plain white. So I'm going to put a small piece of vintage style paper that's just like a print that I'm going to stick on the inside. That's going to be showing, so it adds to the overall theme. You don't have to worry about the top flap that is going to be used to glue to the journal, so that part won't be visible. Adding a thin line of glue, I'm using a glue stick to adhere the 3 other flaps together. And your envelope is done. I am going to add some distress ink to the upper part of the envelope, as this part will slightly show when it's in the journal. Now we put the envelope aside for later, and we start with the base of the flip-flop journal. My scrapbook paper has got about a 1 centimeter additional line where the barcode is and the name of the paper is. I'm just going to cut that off. I do keep that as a trim for journals or for my art journaling. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut our scrapbook paper in half. It is 30 centimeters from top to bottom, so I'm going to make a mark at 15 centimeters and use my cutter to cut that in half. You could also fold and tear. And then one of the halves we're going to divide into 3 equally. So that'll be 10 centimeters each. We now need to score at the 10 centimeter mark for each third. You don't have to use a scoring board if you don't have one. You could also just fold it at the line. We technically just want to create a fold line. And then you'll fold one to the front and one to the back, like a concertina. Now for our second half, we're first going to cut off 5 centimeters from the left-hand side of the paper. I'm going to measure the 5 centimeter mark and then just use my cutter to cut that off. Do keep that piece that is cut off. We can use it later for a tag or for another project. We're now going to measure again to make the fold lines. We're going to measure from right to left, 10 centimeters and then 10 centimeters again. So ideally, we're doing exactly the same as we did on the first paper. We just have a shorter piece on the far left-hand side. It'll make sense once we fold it. The smaller piece that we cut earlier, when that gets folded, it creates a pocket for the front of the journal. So this is all we need for our base of the flip-flop journal. We're now going to attach the 2 together. The smaller one that has the pocket will go on the left, and then you'll attach the one that's got the 3 equal thirds on the right. I'm just using a piece of masking tape to attach these 2 together. And I have flipped over my scrapbook paper so the designs are different. This doesn't really matter because you probably will cover it up once we decorate the journal in the end. I just did it this way so it's easier to see where the one paper starts and the other one ends. And then we're going to fold it up, and there you have the base ready to go. So it really is just a concertina. We're now going to attach our envelope, which will be the very front of the journal. We're going to apply some glue on the flap of the envelope and then stick it underneath the first page. I'm using a clear craft glue. You could also use double-sided tape or even a glue stick. I'm also going to close the pocket now by adding some glue on each edge. But just before I press that down, I want to create a half moon cutout. I'm just going to measure the center of this piece and then use my round punch to create a half circle cutout. And then press the sides down to adhere. Now that is the base of my flip-flop journal. Let me show you where the signatures are going to get sewn in. We need 5 signatures. I have 10 pages folded in half for each of my signatures. And they will be sewn in here. 1, 2, 3, flip over, 4, and 5. We can put that now to the side while we get our signatures together. I'm going for a combination of printable papers, some cardstock, offcuts, music sheet paper, coffee stained, whatever you have and whatever theme you're going for. I'm going for a vintage feel with all the coffee stained and then with a touch of blue. So gather your papers as you normally would for a signature. Just make sure each one fits in between the pages so they're not sticking out too much. It's okay if they do stick out slightly if that is what you like. And then what is easy for me, I just turn A4 in half and then fold it in half again, and that's one paper. So go through and collect. You will need, if you're using 10 papers per signature, you'll need 50 papers altogether. You can do more or less, whatever you prefer. This is a great way to also use up scrap papers if you have. So I have folded over quite a few papers. I'm just going to put my 5 piles now for each signature and just see what I have and so how many more I would still need. Like I said, I'm also going to add a little bit of blue. This is a printable set from Nectar's Creations from her Color Market series, and this is the blue set. So I'm keeping it to vintage and blues because I'm torn between 2 themes and I'm not quite sure which one to use to decorate this journal. So I'll need your help with that. I'm tossing up between mermaid or underwater mermaid and travel theme. Please put in the comments below which one you would prefer to see me decorate. And I will create one of my decorating videos where I show you from beginning to end how I decorate the journal. But let me know if you want me to do mermaids or travel. Once all the signature piles are ready, I'm going to start putting them together one inside the other. I do use my bone tool just to make the edge nice and crisp so that they fit into each other nicely and they're easier to sew in. I'm going to alternate between plain and printed and try get a nice flow of papers as I put them together. There's absolutely no right and wrong way of doing this. Just put it together the way you like and how you want your journal to look. As I finish each signature, I just pop it into the covers just to make sure that it is fitting nicely and it's not overhanging too much. We're now ready to sew the signatures into the cover. So I use this old telephone directory to use with my piercing tool, also known as an awl. I will need to create a template to have the holes that I'm going to punch through all in the same place. So I'm going to use pamphlet stitch for mine. So I need 3 holes per signature. So the way I create my template, I use a piece of cardboard that I fold in half, which is going to go where the spine is. And then I'm going to mark the top and the bottom hole that I'm going to use. I'm sort of measuring against my envelope so that all my holes are in the same place. And then I'm going to measure the center of that for the third hole. And that is the template. Pretty simple. So I'm going to apply it to the top and punch my first set of holes. And then as I was editing this video, I came across the fact that I didn't film the entire process of me stitching the signatures into the cover. Here is the finished version, which doesn't help if you want to know how to make it. So to help with that, I quickly whipped up another one so I can film it and show you how to stitch the signatures in to your flip-flop journal. So this is made exactly the same way I showed you, just obviously using different paper. And I've got all my signatures ready, so let's get started on how to stitch the signatures in. Using the template I recently created, I'm going to punch my first set of holes in the first section where we're adding the signature. I like to hold the pages of the signature together either with a bulldog clip or a paper clip, whatever you have, just to keep them in place so it's easier when you're trying to sew it in, they're not slipping all over the place. And then applying my little cardboard template to the center of the signature, we're going to pierce the holes with the awl. I'm not using a ruler to measure anything here. I'm eyeballing most of it. The important part is that the distance between the top hole and the bottom hole and the edge of your template is the same. And then you can just estimate where it should fit on the center of your signature. I use embroidery thread and an embroidery needle to stitch my signatures into my journals. This is not the only thing that you could use. There are multiple other kinds of threads and needles you can use. There's a lot of other options on YouTube. This is just what I like to use and I find the easiest. We're going to put the needle through the middle of our signature and then push it through the center hole on the cover. We're then going to push the needle through the top hole of the cover and then into the signature. Try not to force it. Make sure you're going through the actual hole you've punched to avoid tearing the paper. We're then going to go through the signature again on the bottom hole and through the back to the cover. We're obviously not pulling it all the way through. We're leaving a piece in the center where we're going to tie it off. We're then going to go again through the center hole on the cover, in through the signature again, and you'll have the two edges side by side. At this point, I like to remove my needle. I also like to have each thread end on either side of the center thread. And then pulling firmly but gently, because we don't want to tear the paper, we're going to tighten all of that before we make a double knot. And then trim off the excess. And our first signature is sewn into our cover. The next section is where we join the covers with the masking tape. This is where we're going to add the second signature. We're going to use exactly the same method as the first. Now for my third signature, I want to add a small envelope as the center of the signature. I'm going to punch my holes as I did with the other one, and then here is my third signature, and then I have an envelope that I have made, but I have not sealed anything. I have left it open. It's going to look like this. Again, I've put some paper on the inside so when it opens it's not just plain white, and before we stick it we need to sew it in. So we're going to use the bottom fold, the part that's going to be the inside of the envelope, that is going to be stitched against the signature. Put that in place and then try and keep it in place as best as possible using some bulldog clips or paper clips. And then punch your holes as normal. So it's exactly the same way as stitching in a regular signature. You're just leaving the envelope open so that the seam or the thread can be on the inside. So carry on as per normal, doing your pamphlet stitch through the center, up through the top, back down the bottom, and then through the center again. And then we're going to glue and close our envelope. Again, using just a glue stick, a thin layer on the edges on the bottom flap. And then press it into place. And then I realized I have a little bit too much glue on the inside center part. Whoopsies, my bad. That's probably going to stick the envelope shut. So I'm going to just take a baby wipe and wipe some of that glue off. No harm done. Now, how cute does that look as the center of the signature? We've got 2 more signatures left to go. We're going to close this up and we're going to flip it over, and then we're going to put the other 2 signatures in there. I think you get a better idea now how this flip-flop journal works. I'm going to show you the last 2 signatures being stitched in. If you don't want to watch it again because it is just repeated technique, you can skip forward to later on in the video. And there you go, all 5 signatures stitched in. I cannot tell you how lovely it feels to have it in your hand. It feels quite chunky, but still small, and it's really, really fun. Look at that. Now, the next part is to decorate it and fill it up with lots of goodies. That'll be in a separate video. Don't forget to comment mermaids or travel, depending what theme you'd like me to do. I won't do a full page flip through of either one as they are really just plain papers at the moment, but I'll show you really quickly what it looks like at a glance. I really hope you enjoyed my video on creating a flip-flop journal only using a 12-inch by 12-inch scrapbook paper for your base. I would really love if you subscribed to my channel. I have lots of videos like this to show you, and also a video on how I decorate this will be coming up soon. I also do art journaling, lots of mixed media, and of course this is home of the Full Deck Challenge. And while you're subscribing, don't forget to hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. And as a closure, I want to keep something simple. I'm going to use a piece of calico fabric. I'm just going to rip a strip, probably about 1.5 centimeters, and I want to tie it around just once and tie it off in a half bow. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Happy creating, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.